Good day, Desire Lord Pendlebury, and well, we've been lording it up at one of our many estates because we're extremely wealthy and privileged. As such, I haven't had a chance to do the video highlights this week, but good boy Commoner Everson has been a good chap and has done it for me. So thank you very much, Steve. I very much appreciate it. Yes. Anyway, if you want to come and join us, the reasons are listed over there. Link to Discord down there, so come and join us. But for now, let's crack on with Steve's highlights.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Hello there, boys and girls, and hello with everyone else of any age. I'm afraid our Lord and Saviour, our Master Mark, is not available tonight, so you're stuck with me. Anyway, we're back to the fantastic 5-6, however many turns of Daytona, where we have Dan Slashy on pole after a blistering qualifying lap. Those years and months qualifying practice has paid off for him. Behind him we have the returning Anthony Marriott, with Jeff Sharp and Ricky Worrell right behind them. Will Thomas and Jamie Nicholson right behind them. Row 4 is Chris Palmer and Mark Pendlebury. Row 5 is Josh Morris and Josh Levy, the two Joshes. Behind him we have Chris Holtz and Steve Everson. And bringing up the rear we have Brian and Nelson. Let's see how we get away. So we start the race off and we have a fantastic getaway here by all of the drivers. Looks like we've got Dan, and that's off straight away. Was that Ricky Worrell and Tuggy, Anthony Marriott off straight away? I believe that's a caution. We didn't even get to turn 1 there. I think that's a sign of things to come. Let's take a look and see what happened there. So we jump on board with the suspension here, Wiley Thomas, and we can see they just bash into each other and take each other off, and poor Jeff is part of that as well. Let's take a look from another angle. So we jump on board with Anthony Marriott here, and we can see he's trying to make it 3 wide straight away. He turns into Ricky, they bash Jeff off. That's an unfortunate turn of phrase, but anyway, that leaves them with some work to do before the race even began. So we rejoin our pack with Dan Slasher in the lead, and I believe that's Jamie Nicholson in second, with Mark Pendlebury behind them, and William fourth. And let's see if we can get a better start here. Oh, that is a fantastic livery there by Steve Everson in the silver chromey car. Anyway, we can see Tuggy and Ricky at the back there with Jeff just in front of them. Can they behave this time as they come through turn 1, 2, 3 and 4? I'm only joking, it's turn 2. We're focused on Chris Palmer here in the old school colours of Evo. He's going to make his move, is he? No! That's a fantastic livery there as well by, we'll check that out in a minute, in the Duff livery car. Jamie Nicholson there, right in front. I think he's now in the lead. That's Dan Slasher, who's just dropped back a bit. Steve there behind Will, trying to get that outside line to have a run. Josh pulls out a little bit as they come through to turn 1 again, past the Geico sponsored zone, sponsored by Geico. Now a common theme and something quite controversial is Jeff Sharp seems to be involved in quite a lot of the incidents here. Let's see if this carries on as we go through. Steve gives Will the old kiss up the rear and tries to nudge him forwards. It looks like that inside line has got this at the moment, and the outside line isn't going anywhere fast. And we jump forward here to lap 8 as we see him coming over the start line to start lap 9, and not much has happened. We've still got Dan right behind Jamie and Steve right behind Will. Stephen, no, he's took him out there. Oh, it's big cataclysmic crash that is. Wow, they're still going. Steve's still being bashed and booted and bombed and everything else. But let's not focus on that, let's focus on the leaders. I'm only joking, you're in here for the crashes. Let's go and have another look. So we jump on the drone cam behind Anthony Tuggy Marriott's car here, and we can see they're all nice, 2 abreast. Tuggy thinks about going 3 wide, thinks better of it. They bash each other in front, and then Tuggy just gets caught and he has nowhere to go, pushes into Steve, and the whole pack folds like a set of cards, deck of cards, we'll go with that, and through Tuggy goes. That's going to be another one of his fast repairs needed. Just to show you how fast this unfolded, we jump on the cockpit of Steve Everson's car here. He got pushed from the rear, got pushed from the left. He ends up going into Will, gets turned again. It's still going on. This is one of the longest crashes we've had. He's still going. He ends up down on the apron eventually. And yeah, lack of control here as he tries to get back on the track. And that's going to be a fast repair, and we reset the pack once again. So we look at the grid again as they come through to start after the safety car's pulled off and everything has been reshuffled up again. We can see, I believe that's Josh in the lead, is it? With Dan on the outside line, Chris Palmer right behind him. There's some very rude and suggestive sponsors on the show today. Let's see if any of them can be given some more spotlight. So Mark Pendlebury here thinks about going for the outside line, thinks better of it and tucks right behind Josh. Dan there in the outside line trying to make things happen. Chris getting a little bit worried about pushing up. Is he going to push into him? Give him a nice little bump. Through they go into the next lap past the Geico sponsored zone. Oh, and they're just kissing the wall there. Making sure they know where it is for future or something like that. Anyway, we can see here Steve Everson making moves from the back there. That's Ricky Worrell gone to the outside line. Steve's come from the back of the grid there up to about 4th place in that line. That outside line starting to make moves now though, is it? Or is it stalling? And we jump forward to lap 17 where all the action's happening here. The outside line going a bit crazy, and that's Chris Palmer has hit someone there and he's pushed him off, and that's Chris Palmer again with Jeff Sharp. We told him we'd mention his name a lot. And through the rest of the field go. As they look at that pace car. Got to have some acceleration to catch up with some NASCARs at that speed. Look at it go! So let's take a look at this from the back of the front of Will Thomas's car. Looking back, you see there a third line starting to appear, or at least someone trying to. And there's a bit of netcode there as Chris took him off there, and then Jeff ends up getting bashed into the pits. And yeah, pure chaos. I promise you there will be smashes and bashes in this today. So we rejoin the action on lap 20, where there's been more laps under the pace car than there has been racing laps so far. Probably, I don't know, I haven't got my calculator. But anyway, looks like we've got Ricky or Tuggy at the front here with Dan on the outside. Ricky and Tuggy are both running that livery car, so I can't tell which one's which. But anyway, Dan, is he going to tuck in nicely behind them here? I believe so, and that leaves Josh. No, it doesn't. It leaves Jamie with Will, and behind them we have Mark, then Josh, then the other Josh, and then Steve, I believe. I never thought I'd write my own name. But anyway, down they come. You can see a third line starting to try and form there. I don't believe that's going to go anywhere though. Tucked in nicely. That outside line hasn't quite formed yet into something tangible, so let's see what happens here as it develops over the next couple of laps. Jeff Sharp here making moves, trying to get some positions back up. We can see, so I believe that's Ricky at the front with Dan just behind him, pushing him, leading the way. They've broke away slightly here. I don't believe they'll be able to get too far though, the way the draft works in these cars. Through they go. You can see it's all starting to move about now. That outside line, is it trying to make headway, or is Jeff just poking his nose in for a bit of fun? Oh, that's Will Thomas there sticking up, trying to make the most of that outside line forming. Jamie's now on the outside as well. Through the final turn they come, and back towards turn 1. They're snaking a little bit. Oh, and that looks like Jamie's been dealt a horrible card there, and he's been hit. And that's Steve being hit again, absolutely blamelessly there. Oh, and they got cars merging into one, and all sorts there. Let's go and take another look at that one. So we follow Jamie here, and we just try and see what happens. So you see he got shuffled down the pack a bit, and then yeah, he just ended up turning into Steve, and that caused that cataclysmic reaction. And if we jump back looking from Will's car again, we can see that the three cars just ended up hitting each other and hitting each other again, and that just caused that all to happen. We jump on board with the blameless Josh here. We can see how he ended up being part of Jeff and Brian and Chris Palmer and everyone else. You can see here the cars are folding into another dimension. Pay close attention, and yeah, there we go. I believe Jamie Nicholson was the fire starter there, the twisted fire starter. And so with that, the organisers of the race have made a little bit of a cock-up, and they have finished this under white flag rules. So that means that Ricky Worrell has been gifted the win by a massive 0.18 seconds over Dan Slattery. Mark Pendlebury was third, with Josh Morris fourth. Will Thomas was fifth, with Steve Everson sixth, followed by Jamie Nicholson, the unlucky, or maybe death-causing Jeff Sharp, Chris Hulse, Josh Levy, Nelson Verdier, Chris Palmer, and 3 laps down, didn't finish the race, we have Anthony Marriott, followed by Brian Dodd. Join us again in a minute for race 2, where there's more controversy, action, and maybe even a little bit of racing. Hello everyone, and welcome to race 2, where the grid is set on reverse championship standings. So in this case, let me check my notes. Okay, so we've got the returning Nelson Verdier in first place, with Josh Levy in second, Brian Dodd in third, and Chris Palmer in fourth. Behind them we have Josh Morris, Jamie Nicholson, Steve Everson, Chris Hulse, Dan Slattery, Jeff Sharp, Mark Pendlebury, Will Wiley Thomas, and behind them we have Ricky Worrell at the back with his reverse its pole strategy. Anyway, let's see how this one unfolds. Yes, so they are off, and that is Nelson with the lead to start with. Can they get to turn 1 this time without causing a massive reaction? It looks that way as Nelson leads the field through turn 1. The outside line with Josh there, one of the Joshes, with Chris right behind him. Looks like it may have a nice run here. Brian trying to get behind. Oh no, Josh has come down. That will leave Chris in that line of 3 to try and push ahead. I believe that's Jamie Nicholson pushing Chris now as Nelson tries to push Josh forwards. They're wibbling and wobbling, but they look like they might be behaving slightly better this time. Nice scoreboard there. Anyway, the lines get pushed and through they go. We jump forward to lap 8 and it's all changed. Not really, but they're now 3 abreast and Josh looks like he's being pushed back. Nelson's still with his nose in the front here for now. Other Josh on the outside being pushed by Jamie, with Brian just behind them. Looks like Steve Everson's been pushed to the back with Ricky there as well. Ricky making some moves as he tries to open up that middle lane. Willie Thomas there. Sorry, Wiley Thomas, no, Will Thomas. There on the outside line. Looks like he might have the lead on the outside line. No. Looks like Nelson's trying to make a move around the outside of Mark. What will happen there? Will he be able to make that stick, or will that line die? It looks like Nelson might be hung out to dry. Gosh, I'm rapping so well here. Anyway, that's Jamie pushing Josh at the front. On to lap 9 they go, and we can see that still some bashing and boshing behind. It looks like they're keeping it clean for now though. Will they be able to keep it that way? Looks like Nelson might be hung out to dry on the outside. Oh no, looks like Dan might be able to pull him forward a bit here. No, Dan's giving up on that. Mark's making a move on Dan. Just to the outside. Oh, something happening here, we don't know. Oh, Dan's gone wide, he's hit the wall. Oh, he's collected Josh, he's collected Ricky, he's collected Jeff, he's collected someone else. I believe that was all created there by Mr. Dan Slassery, who must have been checking his phone or something. Let's take a closer look. So we see here that Dan was on the lower line. He comes up to try and do something, takes it a bit too far, hits Josh, collects a number of drivers behind him. That car there sponsored by John Deere. I think we could say that's more oh dear. Jump on board with Chris Holtz here, who had it all happen in front of him. You can see cars going left, you can see cars going right, you can see cars being hit everywhere. Chris uses that famous right pedal of his, left pedal of his, whichever one the brake is anyway. He uses that to slow down and avoids all the trouble, and he's through without any problems. Anyway, we rejoin the action on lap 12, and we can see that the Warp powered truck has been replaced by a normal pace car. Anyway, off they go, and I believe that's Josh in the lead with Jamie, Brian right behind them with Mark. We then have Nelson and Steve, and then the rest of the field behind them, all tucking in nicely. Steve comes down to the bottom, does he? Yes, he solidifies himself there. Steve's car today brought to you by Big Dick's Halfway In. Make sure you drop in if you ever need to, something like that. Anyway, down the home straight they come, and that is Josh in the lead with Jamie pushing. Outside line being led by Brian here. Will that be able to make any progress? They're all shaking about trying to find the best position, but it looks as that outside line is not going to make much progress to them. We join the action on lap 17, and something a bit strange has happened here. So we seem to have 3 cars that have just lopped off. I believe they were bustling trying to get that fastest lap by hanging back and then pushing forwards, and yeah, I believe they might have just caused themselves some issues with that. Dan Slassery hanging back a bit, trying to pull them back forwards, but not sure if that will work. Anyway, we have Jamie in the lead with Will on the outside. Now trying to make it 3 abreast, are they? Josh there on the outside, Steve right behind them, Mark, Nelson, Chris Palmer, they're all there, they're all in it to win it. Otherwise, why would they turn up? Anyway, here they go. Oh, you can see that Josh has been moved to the outside there. He's been bashed against that wall. Looks like that backward pack have managed to catch back up again. Anyway, we have Steve pushing Will on the outside line. We have Mark pushing Jamie on the inside line. What will force it? And Will's gone. Will's gone. Mark's gone into Chris. Jamie, anyone? Someone? Josh even. They've all gone to that. Oh, no yellow flag. Doesn't appear to be a yellow flag here, so let's go see what happens. Now, I may be the commentator, so I may control the narrative a bit here, but there was a lot of blame put on Steve, and I don't think that's fair here. Look, as Jamie pushes Will, Steve goes through, and it all happens behind him. So we'll play this back at half speed here. We're on the front right of Jamie's car, and we can see that Will and him, they just wanted to get a little bit too close. Will ends up getting turned, a little bit of netcode there, but that's just blame Jeff. Why not? He's at the back, let's blame him. You can see there, Jamie got a whack, but he's able to carry on, and yeah, he follows Steve through. And yeah, let's catch back up with where the field is now. So yeah, we rejoin the cars on lap 20. You can see now we've got a much smaller pack here, with Steve in the lead, Jamie in second, Chris Palmer in third, Nelson fourth. I believe that's Chris Holtz in fifth. No, Josh in fifth, sorry, and Mark in sixth. There's a pack of 3 just behind them, but will they be able to catch up? It looks like Jamie is pushing Steve here, and Chris is trying to make his move. And we will join the pack as they come on to the last lap. Steve takes the flag de blanc, and through they go. Jamie right behind Steve, Chris behind him, Nelson, and then Josh and Mark. Now what will happen here is it's all about the race to the checkered flag as they come up to turn 3 down the back straight, and Jamie is not getting out of that chuff. He is pushing, and he is not going to move. Behind them Chris, is Chris going to make a move, or is he just going to accept his third place? Looks like Steve and Jamie have a good run here. Are they going to fold up behind? Try my best to make this sound exciting, but it really isn't. And past the checkered flag they go. And that brings a close to race 2. And with that, Steve Everson gets his maiden win for the season. And just 0.054 seconds behind, some would say actually inside him, Jamie Nicholson brings back in second place. Behind them, Chris Palmer gains the third step on the podium, with Nelson 38 in fourth, Chris Holt in fifth, and Mark Pendlebury in sixth. I have to apologise to Chris, we'll keep calling him Josh, but he is Chris right now. Anyway, just behind them, Dan Slattery 8 seconds behind, with a pack of 3 of them just ahead of Jeff Sharp and Brian Dodd and Ricky Worrell. A second behind them was Josh Levy and Willie Thomas. Willie not, I don't know. And anyway, he ended up the last car on the lead lap, 40 seconds behind, and bringing up the rear from the pits, 1 lap down, Josh Morris. See you in a minute for race 3. So up to that black and white line thing they go, and Barney waves his flag and off they go. Through they come, and Dan's got a nice early lead there. Steve and Josh on the outside line trying to push through. Josh is going to come on the inside, is he? Yeah, it looks like he's going to tuck in nicely there, and that leaves Steve on the outside by himself. Jeff Sharp with his nicely sponsored car there. Is he going to be able to push Steve through, or is he going to try and sneak his way through? I believe those two might be fighting for second at the end. Oh, and Jamie Nicholson swoops in there. He picked the pockets of both of them while they were too busy having a logo off. Anyway, that leaves Dan in the lead with Will Thomas pushing him on the outside line. It's all going a bit left, right and centre. Steve trying to push Jamie here, but he's a bit wibbly wobbly. I believe the alcohol may have kicked in at this point. Obviously, I don't condone drink driving, but when it comes to a virtual setting, have at it. Anyway, up they go, and they're still going. I'll let you know when something exciting happens. And we're on lap 6, coming up to lap 7, and it looks like, oh, Jamie has turned Ricky, who's turned Tim, and Jeff, and Steve, and bang, and oh, that's painful. Oh, and Steve decided he's gonna, oh yeah, he just had tough mark there as well, just for fun. Anyway, let's see what happened there. So let's follow the car of Jamie Nicholson here. You can see he just gets to the outside of Ricky, turns him round, pirouettes into Jeff. He's now part of Jeff. He's going backwards, he's blown his engine. Jeff turns him again. James now going to try and clutch it into the pits. You can see Jeff there has lost the use of his front right wheel. That will hurt him. And yeah, try and roll to the pits they go. One more time from the cockpit of our hero Steve Everson's car. As you can see there, he was completely and utterly blameless, couldn't do anything. Ends up hitting the wall, comes down onto the apron, and I think you can say he's completely and utterly blameless for this one as well. Boom! Anyway, to the pits he comes. Let's see what happens here. Through the gears. Oh, we can see 2 people stranded there in a lot of pain. Will he offer assistance, or will he just laugh at their demise? He reverses. Who knew NASCAR's had a reverse gear? Well, I do now. You can see a stranded Sharp here. And that's a bash. That's a boosh. That's another bash. That's a scaramouche. Will you do the fandango? Anyway, Thunderbolts of Lightning, he pushes Jeff into the pits. And Jeff, all he has to do here is keep it on the black stuff so that Steve can keep on pushing him. Oh no, he's gone onto the concrete. That means that he will not be allowed any more assistance as the iRacing lack of touch physics stop him. And that allows Steve to push through his hero, his idol, and into the pit box. And that means Jeff Sharp is going to have the agony of the 10-metre 3-minute tow. Brilliant pit stop there, by the way. Anyway, we rejoin just before the restart and the pace car pulls off. Now these guys have been really good at their restarts since that very first one, which went cataclysmically wrong. Try saying that after a few drinks. Anyway, see Mark and Ricky having a little bash there. We focus on the Bucky's 11 car at Brian, and we can see that Josh has turned Mark, and this is the slowest crash ever. Mark's off. Oh, Jeff's been hit. Steve there at the back wiggles through and says thank you. Oh, and that one hurt. Let's take another look at that one. Now, us here at Evo Sim Racing, we like to say that there's no blame and no blame racing, but I think it's fair to say this was all Will's fault, or Josh's fault, and you can hear the pain there behind them. And if you wonder where Mark Pendlebury is tonight, I can tell you it's because he felt so guilty of this, he decided that he was going to give up commentary for a week, as he rammed into the back of Chris Holtz and everyone else there, and he just had to have a piece of Brian as well. Okay, let's attempt this restart again, as we have Dan Slattery in the lead, with Nelson in the far sides, Chris Palmer third, Ricky fourth. It's like Steve's managed to sneak back up to fifth, with Will there on the outside in sixth, Mark in seventh with that awful livery. Mark, where'd you get these ideas from? Anyway, through they go, and it looks like they've got a bit more of a successful start this time. Jeff Sharp there on the outside prowling. Nelson's through. Is he going to come down? He is. That's Nelson in the lead now, with Dan trying to push him. On the outside we have Ricky and Will. Will E be able to latch onto the back? We'll find out. Anyway, that's a good move there by Nelson, snatching the lead. Looks like Dan's not going to stand for that though, and he's pulled out onto the outside with Chris Palmer. Now going three wide, is he? No, he's took him back in. The inside line now is Nelson with Steve. On the outside line we have Dan with Chris and Ricky and Will. So let's follow it from Jeff Sharp. Remember him? He's right at the back here. He can see trouble. He brakes. He slows right down. We can see everyone going into each other, out of each other. Jeff pulls down onto the grass on the inside. Very sensible there by the young man from not inside Chris's catchment area. Anyway, through he goes, and yeah, let's pick up the action again at the safety car. Lap 20, and they're off again. Let's see how successful they can navigate this tricky fact of putting your foot down. Yeah, looks like they've actually managed to get started this time. This camera angle makes them look so slow. But anyway, we can see here Steve on that inside line, Dan ahead of him. Is there a car in front of Steve? I'm not too sure. We seem to be focusing on that car of, I think that's Josh. Chris on the outside line. Jeff, the lucky man Sharp behind him. Oh, that's Dan and Nelson. They have tucked in on the inside line, and that's left Steve there. No, looks like Nelson still on the inside line. Dan on the outside line. Sorry, this commentator has no idea what he's talking about. Anyway, through they go to start lap 21. 21 in French. I'll think of some other languages in a bit. Anyway, through they go. Trying to keep this exciting for you. Steve right on the back of Nelson, trying to push him through. Chris Holtz on the back of Dan. Is he going to go and give him a little tap? Dan tucks on the inside line, and that's left Chris with Jeff pushing him. Through they go, ready to start lap 23, and it's all going on here, and Nelson's turned Dan, who's hit Chris, who's hit Brian. Jeff Sharp has managed to stay in here. He's going to keep his foot down on the outside line. Doesn't appear to be a yellow flag here. There does appear to be a yellow flag here. I am so mistaken. Let's take a look, see what happened there. So we jump behind Brian here, and we can see that Dan came up, he got hit by Chris, and Brian just got caught in the reaction. Oh, and through flies Will. Look at that overtake on pace alone. Anyway, let's rejoin the action at the restart. Commentator may have got things a bit wrong there, but anyway, you don't know that. The pace car has pulled off, and this leaves our one-lap shootout. Steve jumping straight down to the inside line, trying to catch up to Nelson. Behind them, everyone jostling for position. Now, what is going to happen here? Mark has a nice run, does he? No, we're focusing on Jeff Sharp. Why is that, I wonder? Anyway, Steve jumps onto the outside line, tries to make a run on Nelson. Behind them, we have Mark. Now, will Mark try and push Steve, or will he try something funny? Looks like Steve has got the run on Nelson here. Steve comes down the inside. Nice there. But look at that outside line. They've hit the wall, but they are still going. They've Ross Chastained it. Jeff Sharp and Steve Everson. It's going to be a run to the line between the two of them. Dan Slattery behind. Oh, there's been a hit and a miss. We'll go back to that in a second. But who's won? Who's won? It's Jeff Sharp. And we see another angle here as they come to the line. You can see it's all chaos. It's all panic. It's all mayhem. Jeff Sharp got the lead and he got onto that at the right time. Managed to run through. And yeah, let's take one more look at that before giving you the final results. We follow Chris Palmer here as he got on the outside line. We can see Mark and Dan bashing into each other. Chris hits the wall. In front of them, Will's turned Mark. Mark's turned Nelson. Chris has ducked down the inside. He's into the barrier. Oh, this is just absolute chaos. And I tell you what, I love it. And with that, we have our results for race 3, with Jeff Sharp getting the win by a whole 10.5 of a second ahead of Steve Everson. Dan Slattery sneaks in 3rd place. Will Thomas in 4th, with Brian 5th. Behind them, we have Josh and Chris Palmer, Nelson and Mark Pendlebury, Chris Holtz and Josh Morris, with Ricky Worrell and Jamie Nicholson finishing some laps down.
Hello there, 'tis I, Lord Dumbass. Didn't save the replays because I wasn't going to be doing them, but that means I can't then go into the old replay and do the nice slick transitions for the points. But then again, I haven't been including the pro and the am standings anyway, so maybe this is a slight improvement. Anyway, I'm rambling. The pro standings. Will Thomas leading the way on 208 points. He's got 5 wins so far, certainly staking his claim for a maiden championship win. Lord Pendlebury then in 2nd on 193 points, with Jeff Sharp in 3rd on 187. Those two have switched positions from last week. Ricky Worrell, he's dropped positions because he's been shit recently. Dan Slattery is then in 5th on 161 points, with Jamie Nicholson in 6th on 120. In the relegation zone, we have Nelson Verdier and Martin Rigby in 7th and 8th on 36 and 28 points respectively. Not actually sure if that's going to be how the relegation zone works, but yep, we'll find out. Anyway, on to the AM standings. Chris Hulse occupying that promotion spot and has got a nice tasty lead. He will surely be in pro next year if he keeps up this form. We then have Steve Everson, the commentator of this evening. He is in 2nd on 182 points, claiming 3 wins so far this season. Chris Palmer is then in 3rd, with Josh Morris just 6 points back in 4th. Josh Levy, the other Josh in this, which is obvious I suppose, he's on 111 points because he really likes the number 1. We then have Brian Dodd in 6th, just making it into the hundreds as well on 102 points. Anthony Marriott only taken place in 4 races so far this season, if you include the first race tonight, which you would do, I'm not sure why you wouldn't, but he is on 2 wins, and he has got the, I don't know, he's probably got the best win ratio there at 50%. Paul Nicholson is then in 8th, and Axel Edwards is in 9th on 28 points. And on to the overall standings. And my goodness, it is tighter than a tight thing at the top of the overall standings. Will Thomas is on 156 points, just 4 points back. Jeff Sharp with, that's not 4 points, that's 5 points, you idiot. Just 5 points back is Jeff Sharp on 151 points. We then have 'tis I, Lord Pendlebury in 3rd on 150 points, and Ricky Worrell then just 1 point back on 149 points. That is 7 points covering the top 4 in what is around the halfway point of the season nearly, so impressive stuff. We then have Dan Slattery, last season's winner. He's going to have to start pulling the finger out of his arse in the second half of the season if he wants to get involved in that awfully tight scenario up at the top. We then have Steve Everson just 2 points back. Then a bit of a further gap back down to Chris Hulse. He's on 89 points in 7th place, with Jamie Nicholson in 8th on 82 points. 12 points behind him is Chris Palmer on 70, with Josh Morris a further 12 points back in 10th. Anthony Marriott, he is also on 58 points, so that's both of them at 12 points further back. I didn't look far enough down there, did I? We are then in 12th place with Brian Dodd on 27 points, Josh Levy just 7 points back in 13th. Paul Nicholson is then in 14th on 17 points. Nelson Verdier, he took part in his first races this season this week. He's now on 16 points, and apparently Axel Edwards and Martin Rigby are level in 16th place, but the last time I checked, 11 is a bigger number than 2, so that would put Axel Edwards in 16th and Martin Rigby in 17th. Anyway, that's an awfully long rundown. Jesus Christ, I've just looked at the time, that's over 4 minutes. Fuck me. Sorry about that, chaps. But anyway, next week we are off to... Well, I know we're in the LMP3s and we're in at Fuji, and it is the 90-minute endurance race. So if you do want to get involved, take a look at those details at the start of the video. Come and have some fun. Yeah, for now, we'll catch you later. I'm going to stop saying ciao. I'm sick of it.